Alright guys, so today we are going to be talking about Point War, and there are a bunch of guides here on the official Dislyte YouTube channel, their community. It's also there on the Discord, I think. So I'm going to be looking through these guides and then I'm going to show you how I personally got to Point War 16. I could probably climb higher, but I'm too lazy. So we're just going to go over a brief overview of these guides and I'm going to show you quickly how I got to Point War 16. So first off is we're gonna go with the speed cleaves first. So speed cleave team, very basic, have very fast unit, kill enemy, they're dead, win. But okay, so there's a bunch of things here. So obviously first thing you need to do is, well, it's all written in this guide, but I'm just going to go through this quickly. So you want to have a speed lead, one of these four, all of them very good. Now when it comes to DPS, I would recommend at least 2 DPS, preferably 1 AoE, 2 AoE, or 1 AoE and 1 single target. You should not go for double single target damage because then you will only kill at most 2 units and then the rest of the 3 units have a chance to bring it back. And that's very dangerous, especially if it's something like a Hyde or a Everett. They could actually solo your team. And obviously AP pushing. So generally you will have a speed lead, your AP push will be your fastest unit and then they will have the advantage of the speed lead, take the first turn, AP push, I am so sorry, AP push, and then they will push the rest of your team and then the rest of your team is faster than the enemy teams, which is really good. So with regards to these team compositions, I will recommend the speed lead, some unit that's an AP pusher, someone that gives your team attack up, and then at least 2 DPS. If you can complete all of those requirements, you're good, you're golden. So you can also opt to add in like a Dispeller like Raven or Fengnusi. Up to you. And yeah, speed cleave, very awesome. Next is control teams. So control teams are basically, hey, you're never gonna take a turn and we will just keep on controlling you, and eventually you will die because your team will just never take a turn. So again, Captain Lead, I would highly recommend not Tia, because Tia does not actually have that good cooldowns for controlling. She's only good for that one first S3, and then after that she's kind of lackluster. So I would recommend either Longmian or Parmy. That's in my opinion, that would be better. And then in terms of the actual units, you should have like some form of DPS to end the game. So Pandora or maybe Xiangman. You could also use like Pritzker and stuff like that. And depending on who you're facing, if they have like counter attacks or whatever, you might want to bring some form of sustain. So maybe like a Clara or maybe like Parmy's S1 that will give your team recovery. It really depends. So there are a bunch of team compositions here. Generally, I would recommend not using like 5 controllers. I would recommend like 3 to 4 controllers maybe, and then have like 1 DPS there. That way you can sort of finish out the game, because the longer the game goes, if you're just controlling and not dealing that much damage, the more things can go wrong. So you want to control them, but you also want to finish them as soon as possible. You don't want the game to last super long, especially against like tanky teams. They could like just sustain, and then once it gets like the end game, they might start like counter attacking you and might end. So I would recommend like maybe some form of DPS. Now, when it comes to the sustain teams or the tank teams, I would say that this is like the strongest strategy, and it does say here that this is how you reach rank 15 or higher. And the reason being is that right now tank teams just kind of go unmatched, basically because of the Point War max HP. In Point War, the max HP percentage. So every team in Point War gets extra HP on top of what they already have. So tank teams benefit from this the most. And yeah, I will say that in terms of captains, you would definitely want HP leads, okay? Defense leads aren't that good because there's just no way to capitalize off of them at the moment. In terms of your DPS or, well, your tanks, you have a bunch of options here. The most common will obviously be Hyde and Everett. If you do have Zhang Ji at R2 or Jiang Zuli, those are great. The rest are just kind of not the best. There is some success with Luo Yan, but it's kind of like not that useful outside of like that specific niche. So unless you're a very seasoned player, I wouldn't recommend it. And yeah, here are some tank leads. There are like the revive compositions, there are like the basic compositions, there are the revive compositions with the JJ. I would personally say that JJ is like the strongest, most annoying thing to deal with. But yeah, and okay, so here it is. This is my team composition, okay? And I'm gonna give you this secret. This is what I like to use because this is just generally what works for me, and I find this to be the most consistent with the units that I own. So I don't own Jiang Zuli. I don't own like a really stacked out Loki. Loki at R4 is really insane. So personally, this is what I use, okay? So the power of this team comp basically is that I have a ton of DPS units. So Everett's obviously one of the best DPS tanks, one of the best DPS tanks. But another one that gets kind of slept on is Gabrielle. Gabrielle obviously is really, really powerful. And if you're ever at R6, you will know that she does insane damage. And so at the higher ranks, one of the most important things that you need to do is to build your Gabrielle to output as much damage as possible, what you can do by building her really, really fast. Now, I don't have her on a DPS set, and it's just the way I do. So the basic idea of this team composition is that if the enemy has zero if they have zero control aspects, like if they don't have a Loki, if they don't have a Fennusi, and if they don't have a JJ is the one exception for DPS because he ignores defense. If they don't have any of that, this team composition will more or less always win. It's not like a 100% chance, but they will more or less always win. So the reason being is that when it gets to that point where HP and healing is cut off, so at that point where there's no healing anymore, these units are really, really strong. And I will say that it's because of the combination of Abigail and Meredith. Meredith is actually an unsung hero in terms of like the higher point war, because if you didn't know, she does damage. She reduces the max 30% HP up to 50% of Meredith's max HP, and this is always basically 30%. So basically what Meredith does is that on a 3-turn cooldown, because she reduces her cooldown by 1 or 4 depending, but she's on Ocean Waves, so she will trigger the Ocean Waves often. So basically on a 3-turn cooldown, she will do 30% of the enemy's HP damage. And the reason why that is so strong is because at the later stages of the fight, you will know that they cannot actually heal back the damage. So she is just doing chunks of 30% HP, and that is stronger than most DPS. It will sometimes outdamage my Everett, it will sometimes outdamage like Hyde's, and the reason why this is strong is because if they don't have any control unit, the reason why I preface no control is because this team has no controlling whatsoever, right? So if they have like Jinyu Yao, like people will use Jinyu Yao to avoid getting controlled or whatever, I just don't get any of that back. So I'll just, oh frick, I quick battled it, I'm stupid. But yeah, so I will just replay this and just like talk over it while that's happening. But basically, because at the end stages, Abigail's shield is just broken basically because healing is stopped, but shields aren't. So, and Clara doesn't count because Clara's shields come because of its over-healing. So Clara doesn't actually give you a shield at the end game, but Abigail does. Abigail's R2, or S2 I mean. Abigail's S2 gives everyone shield, and it will give them even more shield if they have less health. And even if they die, she will revive them. So it's kind of like this team has just so much coverage at the end game. And so as you will see here, right now this Hyde, it doesn't matter if he has 50 stacks, because even if he has all that health and all that defense, it doesn't matter because Abigail will be doing chunks of 30. And my Ahmed will prevent against the HP reduction from Hyde. And yeah, this team comp just doesn't lose because there's just so much mitigation, there's so much damage mitigation. It removes their damage with the attack defense. It's just all really good. So I promise you, if you use this team comp and then you just go against not all speed cleaves, it's actually not the best against speed cleaves. If it's against speed cleaves, I will swap out Abigail and Meredith for Clara and Hyde just because they're better against like the initial burst. But Abigail and Meredith are definitely better if the fight is going to last like multiple turns. Like it's gonna last like tons and tons of turns until it reaches the no more healing, right? So look at this right now. Right now it's at this point already where their healing cannot keep up. And so because we have tons of damage units, we technically have 3 DPS right now in Gabrielle, in Everett, and in my Meredith's S3. eventually they will just whittle down and just kill a unit, and then the enemy team cannot keep up. So yeah, and even against like other Abigail team comps, the reason why this usually wins is because Meredith is doing that much more damage. So I will say that this team comp wins against just about any team comp that doesn't have Abigail Meredith, that doesn't have JJ, and that doesn't have like double or triple control. Aside from that, it will beat any other tank team comp, in my experience, okay? In the way I have built these units. So yeah, like look at this right now. They have no revives. So even though like I'm taking a beating, eventually like we will just be able to whittle them down because I'm just doing 30% of their health basically every few turns. And it's just not something that they cannot keep up with. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And the reason why I don't use anyone on Tyranny of Zeus is because I really don't want to stun the enemy team if they have Jin Yu Yao, because the Jin Yu Yao will just transfer that stun back to me. So this team comp is just full of stats and full of cooldown reduction. It's not heavy on utility, and it's not heavy on like coverage. So I will only fight other tank teams. I will not fight control teams. I will not fight JJ teams. I will not fight Nusi teams. Those teams are a bit too strong, but there are enough players in the higher ranks that you can just like reset every now and then and find someone that you can consistently beat. And yeah, if I just show you my match history, don't look at my defense records. I have not been changing my defense records. Yeah, okay, don't look at my defense records. If you guys have any defenses, like please give me. I don't really care about point, but yeah, look at this is this is embarrassing. But yeah, when it comes to the attack, okay, sometimes I will fight, like, okay, look at this, right? So any tank team comp, it's a win. Any tank team comp, even if it's like triple, double revive, it doesn't matter. I thought that I should win this, but apparently I lost, so I ended up fighting this guy. I think this should be more of a 50-50, but I think like his Jin Yu Yao is skilled up or something so that he stuns a lot often. I don't really know, but let's just call that the exception. Yeah, anytime team comp, even if they have like R6 everything, it doesn't matter because the Abigail shield is just too strong. And yeah, Jin Yu Yao doesn't deflect any stuns back to me, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, even if they have Ollie or whatever, it just doesn't matter at all. If they have no control team comps, I will generally win. Sometimes I will lose every now and then. Probably if I manualed it, it would be better. But this is like an 80-20%. It's like an 80% chance to win against... Sometimes it's like 90% chance to win against like non-tank team comps. I mean, against tank team comps. So for example, this one, they have no Meredith and they have no control. So I just insta-win this almost every single time. And okay, one important thing to note is that you have to put, like for example, if I just blitz this, I should probably win, although they haven't like R6 Sally, so I'm pretty scared. But one thing that's important to note is you have to put Abigail on your lead. And the reason why this is important is because she will prioritize pushing herself. And if she pushes herself, that's really good, because the more turns she takes, the more chances Ocean Waves will proc, and if Ocean Waves proc, she will get her cooldowns more. And if she gets this blessing, this Rose Blessing up, this shield up almost always, it's really, really, really good. So do not make the mistake of putting like Ahmed here or Gabriel here. You want to put Abigail here, okay? And also the reason why I put Gabriel on a very speedy comp is because I don't want her to just attack. Her main goal isn't to kill, it's to last long. That's last long somewhere in bed, right? Ayo. But anyway, yeah, and I put her on the immunity set because that way if they do get the first turn, I can still, even if my whole team gets stunned, they should survive, and then I will be able to put rush on them, and then they should still survive. So I don't use this team comp against speed cleaves. Again, I only use this against other tank teams, and this is like a tank killer team comp, I would say. And yeah, if just like look at this, it just doesn't work. Even against like the solo Loki, it's usually enough. Yeah, even like against R6 Ahmed or whatever, it doesn't matter. Even against like Laura or whatever, it doesn't matter. Even against like some Pandora team comp, still doesn't matter. So sometimes I will lose because of the RNG. I think like higher level Jinyu Yaos is like the biggest RNG because they have stuns on their S1 and they're usually built pretty fast. The stuns on Everett's kit isn't that useful because Everett doesn't really attack all that often, and even if we do attack into him, he doesn't like, how should I say, his attack isn't that scary into like all the defense up that I have. I think Jinyu Yao is like the scariest thing. Like Jinyu Yao, basically controls and dispels are like the scariest things, and yeah, it doesn't work well against like these hybrid team comps. Hybrid team comps with like 4 tank units or tank team composition and like a Gaius. That's really, really bad because this team comp really just wants to last super long in bed, right? So yeah, I'm gonna even like quick battle this, and I think I should win still. Yeah, so even against the R6 Sally, it's pretty solid. So yeah, I'm like not showcasing anything, I'm just talking, which is grade A content. But yeah, and it's gotten me to point where 16. Honestly, if you grind it in like bot tickets, I could probably climb higher, but I don't particularly care. And the reason why I like this is because it wins against a lot of team comps like that are averaged here in Point War. So a lot of Point War team comps will have like these just tank teams. So for example, this is just a tank team setup, right? No control, no like super strong DPS, no like Feng Nusi or JJ. So I should like win this 9 out of 10 times. And then yeah, it just makes like grinding easier. Like I don't have to refresh that often. I can usually fight like 2 or 3 times. Like even this, I'm pretty confident in because it's just the solo DPS, right? It's just Ashley. So it's not really that good. And yeah, it just wins. It's just really solid, really nice. So yeah, that's my secret. I need to work on a defense, but honestly, I'm not like the biggest. I care more about PvE stuff. But yeah, so definitely look at these guides. These guides are freaking awesome. But if you want to climb to Point War 16, this is how I did it. But you know, obviously they're like other team comps. They're just not like the end all be all of team comps. But I just like it because against like no matter what R they are, right? As long as they fit the conditions, it's a win. Like there's an R6 hide, I don't really care. Bam, it's a win. Like it's just okay. Well. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Very chill video about Point War, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye. Get out of here. Ding.